I want to talk to you quick about stand choice, stand placement, and not picking a whacked out tree stand spot. This is something that every beginner needs to know, but also even the most seasoned veterans can have this simple way of looking at it to where you can make sure that you're always putting that stand in the right spot. So what I do is I actually just write out whack. So first and foremost, we have to think about the wind. The wind is so critical to stand placement. Honestly, it's number one when it comes to making your choice, because there's tons of different things on the market that can help you with wind, but the one thing that I've figured out over 30 plus years of hunting is there's no guarantee that I'm gonna fool the nose of a wild animal. It's something that I always have to factor in, that I'm on the losing side of that battle, and the only way that I can be assured that I'm gonna win it every time is if I play it. And that's what's so awesome about the HuntWise app, is the wind feature that just instantly shows you where that wind is blowing and where you need to be positioned in that hunting location so that the wind is most in your favor. So whenever I go to a new spot, first and foremost, I'm gonna say, what's the wind need to be if I'm gonna hunt here? Sometimes if you only have one key area, you might need to still ask this question, because you might have to put multiple sets on the single location so that you can play the wind regardless of what it's doing. And you might have an option 1, 2, or 3 just based on what the wind is going to do in that particular spot. Because if you have a spot that's really good for a brief period of time, for example, late season food, you're going to be forced to hunting that, those last 2 or 3 weeks. You've got to make sure you have options regardless of what the weather's doing. So first and foremost is going to be the wind. Next is going to be your access. How can you access that particular stand location? Because entry and exit points are so critical, because that is what reveals you being there to those animals. And if you're walking across that destination place in order to get into your stand, well, you've already distributed scent all out in the area that you need to hunt. So the thing is, can I find an entry and an exit to where I'm crossing minimal travel paths of the animals in order to be in a maximum stand location? Next thing that we're going to look at is going to be your concealment. And by this, I'm referring to, what do you have for your concealment / cover? You want to make sure that when you pick a stand, you want to make sure that you're not just going to be a person sitting out on a telephone pole, because you're not going to have any type of concealment or cover. The other thing that you need to think about on this same topic is, what is that concealment or cover going to look like during the time of year that you're in that spot? So I gave an example previously on a little episode where I talked about one of my favorite spots for the rut being in this vet plot, and how the only problem with the tree that I hunted there for that first season was the tree looked great until I wanted to be in the tree, which was during the first part of November, when I got in there and there's not a single leaf left on this type of tree. So if I know that going in, and I know, hey, I want to be there later in the season, I'm either needing to establish concealment and cover around me, or I need to pick the tree that allows me to cut myself in to where I have that. Now, the next thing, and this is important for me because I'm a huge proponent of being in the tree all day during the rut. Once it's rut, I like to be in from dark to dark. So the question I ask myself is, can I kick back and can I relax in that stand? If the only option is a tree that's leaning forward and I know that I'm gonna have to be sitting for hours leaning forward, or on a small little tree that's in the wind and I'm blowing all around all day, well, that's not gonna be something where I can kick back. The key to the kickback is the less you move in your stand, the less likely you are to be detected. So you want something to where you can either stand with your back to the tree and you're in the concealment, and if you need to sit down, you can do so without being fully exposed, or you need something to where when you're sitting down, you've got a nice wide platform, something wide on your back, you don't have a limb in your back, or you're not having to fight being crooked in there. You want something to where you can be comfortable. Because if you're picking a stand location for the first time, then that's going to be something that you can easily look and say, okay, well, I actually have options A, B, and C in these trees. This one is naked. This one has, you know, all those little stubs coming out of it. They're going to be in my back. That one actually has a bit of a canopy, but it's also got a really nice wide trunk to where I can put some cover behind me if I need to take a couple cedar limbs up, and I can make it huntable. So all that is critical. And the last thing that rounds this off, so I always put an S on the end of this too, because the one thing I really want to think about last is going to be the sun. Because what you want is you want to have a stand location to where that sun is going to always be behind you if possible during the prime time. So for example, if I'm going to be sitting in a stand and where you all are looking at me from is the destination place for the game, and they're all out there, well, I'm not going to want to try to pick a stand to where every single evening at prime time, that sun is going to be setting and being right in my face and fully illuminating me in my stand. What I need to think about is, okay, I've got options A, B, and C, but I also need to know, is this a morning spot or an evening spot based on what the sun's doing? Because if you know you're fully illuminated and exposed in the morning when the sun's coming up from the east, then you might decide, okay, I need to nourish this particular stand location to be more of an evening destination, so maybe that's more of a food source rather than being in a travel corridor. So always think about that sun. You want to remember your wind, your access, your concealment, your cover. Can you kick back and try to get that sun at your back, or at least from the side? You don't want it coming up, being in your face and fully illuminated. If you follow these, you're going to be in the ideal spot and you're going to have a perfect stand location.